Last month, a group of visual artists launched a tool called Nightshade. It makes tiny, imperceptible changes to digital images, changes that are invisible to humans but poison AI training data. Upload a Nightshade processed image to the internet, and any AI that trains on that image will learn wrong associations. Ask for a dog, get a cat. Ask for a car, get a toaster. Within weeks of launch, Nightshade had been downloaded over 1 million times. Artists were using it en masse, deliberately contaminating the internet with data designed to degrade AI systems. This was not hacking. This was not illegal. This was self-defense. The Nightshade phenomenon is one data point in a much larger trend, a backlash against artificial intelligence that is growing across multiple fronts. The early excitement about AI, the wonder at what the technology could do, is giving way to something darker. Resentment, anger, fear. I have been tracking the AI backlash for months, talking to the artists who are fighting back, the workers who are terrified, the consumers who are opting out, and the activists who are organizing. What I found is a movement that is more diverse, more motivated, and more consequential than the tech industry seems to realize. Let me start with the creative backlash, because that is where the anger is most visible and most organized. Artists were among the first to feel the impact of generative AI. Tools like Midjourney and DALL-E can produce images in seconds that would take human artists hours or days. The economic impact has been immediate and severe. Freelance illustrators have seen their income drop by 50 to 70%. Graphic designers report that clients are increasingly using AI instead of hiring human talent. Concept artists who once worked on video games and films are being replaced by AI tools that can iterate faster and cost nothing. The response from the artist community has been multifaceted. Some are suing. The class action lawsuits against Stability AI, Midjourney, and DeviantArt argue that training AI on copyrighted artwork without permission is infringement. The cases are still being litigated, and the outcomes could reshape the entire AI industry. Some are sabotaging. Nightshade is the most famous tool, but there are others. Glaze, developed by the same research team at the University of Chicago, makes it harder for AI to imitate a specific artist's style. Artists are using these tools not because they expect to stop AI, but because they refuse to participate in their own obsolescence without a fight. Some are organizing boycotts. The movement to boycott AI-generated content is growing. Consumers are being urged to check whether the content they consume, art, music, writing, video, was created by humans or by AI, and to favor human creators. Platforms that allow AI-generated content are being pressured to label it clearly. The writer community has experienced a similar trajectory. The Writers Guild of America strike in 2023 was, in substantial part, about AI. The writers won protections against being replaced by AI, limits on AI-generated material being considered source material, and requirements that AI not be used to undermine writers' credits and compensation. The Screen Actors Guild's strike had AI at its center. Actors were fighting against being digitally scanned and having their likenesses used in perpetuity without consent or compensation. The fear was not hypothetical. Studios were already proposing to scan background actors, pay them for one day, and use their digital likeness forever. The musicians are fighting too. AI-generated music that imitates specific artists' voices and styles is flooding streaming platforms. Universal Music Group had the AI-generated song Heart on My Sleeve, which convincingly imitated Drake and The Weeknd, pulled from streaming services. But thousands of similar tracks remain. The creative backlash is driven by a simple, powerful emotion, the sense that something essential is being stolen, not just income, though that matters, not just opportunity, though that matters too. but the very act of creation. The thing that makes human beings unique. The feeling of making something with your own mind and hands. But the backlash is not limited to creative workers. It extends to workers in every industry where AI threatens jobs. Customer service representatives watching their work be automated. Translators watching AI produce acceptable translations in seconds. Junior lawyers watching AI review documents faster than they can. Junior programmers watching AI write functional code. The fear is not always rational. Some workers fear AI will replace them when the actual risk is augmentations, not replacement. But the fear is real, and it is shaping behavior. Workers are avoiding AI skill development. They are resisting AI tools in their workplaces. They are supporting political candidates who promise to protect jobs from automation. Consumer backlash is emerging too. Not organized, not visible in protests, but visible in behavior. A growing segment of consumers actively avoids AI-generated content. They prefer human-made products, human-written articles, human-created art. They are willing to pay more for the guarantee of human creation. The premium for human-made is becoming a market signal. Several platforms now offer human-verified labels. Etsy has seen a surge in demand for handmade goods, explicitly defined as not AI-generated. Substack has grown partly because readers trust that the writers are human. The market is beginning to differentiate. There is also an aesthetic backlash. The distinctive look and feel of AI-generated content, the slightly too smooth images, the text that is fluent but somehow hollow, the music that is technically perfect but emotionally flat, is becoming recognizable, and people are starting to find it unpleasant. This aesthetic recoil is hard to quantify but real. It is the uncanny valley of generative AI. The content is almost human, but not quite, and the almost quality is more disturbing than if it were obviously artificial. People describe AI content as soulless, plastic, empty. The words are right, but the feeling is wrong. The ethical backlash is perhaps the most significant long-term threat to the AI industry. People are increasingly uncomfortable with how AI is developed. The use of copyrighted material without consent, the exploitation of low-wage workers to label training data, the environmental impact of massive data centers, the concentration of power in a few large companies. These ethical concerns are not fringe positions. Polling consistently shows that a majority of Americans are concerned about the pace of AI development, want stronger regulation, and believe AI will harm more than help in the near term. The gap between what the industry is building and what the public wants is widening. The political backlash is the most unpredictable element. Governments around the world are facing pressure to regulate AI more aggressively. The European AI Act is the most comprehensive effort, but individual countries are going further. Italy briefly banned ChatGPT. China requires government approval for AI models. The United States is debating executive orders and legislation. The political response is being driven by multiple constituencies with different concerns. Labor groups want job protections. Civil rights groups want algorithmic fairness. National security hawks want export controls. Privacy advocates want data protections. The coalition is broad but fragile. There is a historical parallel that I keep returning to. The Luddites of the early 19th century were not opposed to technology in principle. They were skilled textile workers whose livelihoods were being destroyed by automated looms. They broke machines not because they were irrational, but because machine breaking was one of the few forms of leverage they had. The Luddites lost. The machines won. Factory production transformed the economy and eventually created more wealth than the cottage industries it replaced. But the transition was brutal. Generations of workers suffered. Communities were destroyed. The social contract between labor and capital was was rewritten in blood. The AI backlash is different from the Luddite movement in important ways. It is not just about jobs, it is about creativity, authenticity, privacy, autonomy, and power. It is a response to the feeling that something fundamental about being human is being threatened. Will the backlash succeed? In some areas, yes. Artists have already won concessions that seemed impossible 2 years ago. Copyright law is evolving in response to AI. Labor contracts now include AI protections. Platforms are adding labeling requirements. The backlash is having real effects, but in the most fundamental sense, the backlash will probably not stop the deployment of AI. The economic incentives are too powerful. The technology is too useful. The companies are too wealthy and too determined. History suggests that resistant movements can shape the trajectory of technological change, but rarely block it entirely. The more important question is, what kind of AI future the backlash will produce? Will it be a future where AI is deployed with consent, transparency, and accountability? Or a future where AI is imposed despite widespread opposition? The backlash is not just a reaction. It is a negotiation over the terms of technological change. The AI industry is paying attention, even if it does not always show it. Company executives privately acknowledge that public trust is the most valuable asset they possess and the most fragile. The companies that survive the backlash will be the ones that take it seriously and adapt. If you are part of the backlash, your voice matters. The future of AI is not predetermined. It is being shaped by every artist who uses Nightshade, every worker who demands AI protections, every consumer who chooses human-made, every citizen who votes for candidates who take AI seriously. If you work in the AI industry, listen to the critics. They are not Luddites. They are people who see what you are building and are genuinely afraid. Their fear is not irrational. Their anger is not unjustified. The technology you are building will change their lives in ways they did not consent to. The AI backlash is not an obstacle to be overcome. It is a signal that something important is at stake. The question is whether the industry will hear the signal or ignore it. If you value this kind of honest, nuanced coverage of the AI landscape, subscribe and turn on notifications. We tell both sides of the story. Next week, we are doing something special. After 10 deep dives into the most important AI stories of the year, we are stepping back to ask the biggest question. Where does all of this lead? The AI endgame. In the comments, I want to hear your perspective. Are you part of the AI backlash? What specifically bothers you most about how AI is being developed and deployed? And what would need to change for you to feel differently? Thanks for watching. Stay curious, and I will see you in the next one.